Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Happy Sunday. So, didn't think I'd have to make a video about this. This was what I thought was quite a non-issue, but apparently stirred some shit in the Halloween community. As we all know that Halloween fans are kind of like the Trekkies of the horror world, They get all riled up. It is what it is. So, we had Tommy Lee Wallace, Mr. TLW himself, who, if you don't know, he was the production designer on the original Halloween. He was the editor. He's the man responsible for converting the Shatner mask into what we all know as the Shape. He also played Michael Myers in a few scenes, most notably the closet scene, and also busting through the door in the into the kitchen after Laurie, and also stabbing Jamie as she falls down the stairs, over the railing, and then down the stairs. You think the guy knows his stuff. He was there. We weren't. But there has been this rumor for years that Debra Hill played the Shape in what people thought was a scene where Tommy Doyle looks out the window and he sees the Shape across the street, the silhouette of the Shape, staring back at him. Now, she never said that's the scene she did. It was interpreted that that's the scene she did. I think it was interpreted by one person that that's the scene she did. And that person would be whomever edited that documentary that was on the first Anchor Bay release. Oddly enough, one of the few I didn't actually work on, since I did the bonus features for the majority of the other releases. A few other people did as well, but when you start getting into like the Scream Factory stuff and the box set and all that stuff. And as an editor, you try to pull stuff from the movie that corresponds with what your subject is talking about. And that's what this person did. If you watch this clip, which I will put here, we will show where this came from. Now listen closely to what she says. She never says that this was the scene. She never says it was actually even used. She said that she went to pick up some second unit shots. And just so you know, second unit is just various pickup shots. Right there, that wouldn't be what that shot is of Tommy looking out the window. That was not a second unit shot. That was a first unit shot that Carpenter shot, and he even talks about it, having shot all of those from that point of view through the window across the street. He shot them all consecutively at the same time that were used throughout the film. I'll put that in here as well to just further back up or debunk the fact that that was not Debra Hill. That was not Debra Hill in that scene. But she talks about how she was going to get some shots of trick-or-treaters and wanted the Shape in the shot. And so she went out on her own to do this. She said once they looked at the footage in dailies, and for all of you that don't know what that is, dailies are when they go in and they look at the footage they shot for the day and they decide what they're going to use and what they're not going to use. She said that she looked ridiculous. Now, you would think from her saying herself that she looked ridiculous in the costume, that would mean they definitely wouldn't have used it. But she never said if they actually did or didn't. I would say it's pretty clear that they didn't. I looked at myself in the costume and we all laughed that it looked so ridiculous. So, you guys can be the judge of that. Take a look at what she says right here. And then we'll go back. We'll hear what John said in regards to those scenes. We'll also look at what Tommy said. And then I'll tell you what Nick said when I spoke to him today about it. So let's take a look at that Debra interview now.
Loves that. Well, he was so agile and subtle. And he made a great shape because of that. Well, I needed to go pick up some trick-or-treat shots, second unit. And so, and I wanted them where trick-or-treaters went by and suddenly there stands the shape. So not only was I going to direct the second unit, but I brought the costume and I was going to be the shape. So I put this shape costume on, and of course I'm so much tinier than Nick. And in dailies, it was so hilarious because the shape had shrunk.
Okay, so correction, she didn't say ridiculous. She said it was so hilarious because the shape had shrunk. Now, I don't think that they would want their scene to be hilarious. So I would think that they wouldn't have used that. One would think. But since she talked about trick-or-treaters going by and there's the shape, the editor of that piece put in that clip. You know, you don't even know what is going through the mind of the editors on this, and I'm not sure who did that. But you think to yourself, oh, what would be a good scene to use where trick-or-treaters are going by? And, you know, so they look, they find that. They're like, oh, this works. Now, a lot of times when people put these things together, they're not intentionally trying to say this is the scene she's talking about. They're just trying to find something that corresponds to what she's talking about. Like, example, trick-or-treaters going by and here's the shape. So that person that put that in there might have thought, maybe this is the scene she's talking about. They also might have thought, I don't give a shit if this is the scene she's talking about. This works. Let's put this in there. You know, their job is to put together a piece for entertainment. They're putting together a documentary. So they want to add in stuff. Now I'm putting in a clip here for you guys to take a look at from the very same documentary, Halloween Unmasked from 2000. Now this is where an editor makes another mistake. The same editor puts in a clip of the wrong place when Tommy Lee Wallace is talking about the neighborhood in Hollywood where the babysitters' houses are. He's talking about the street. The editor drops in a clip from Pasadena where the girls are walking home from school. So this is just an example of how an editor can put something in there thinking it's one thing, but it was actually something else. And mind you, this is the same editor that put in that clip of Debra Hill when she's talking. So this is just an example. Take a look.
All right, what you're looking at is the original Halloween street. And I felt like this had the look we needed. Overhanging trees, could be anywhere.
So I do not think that was the scene she was talking about. It's very likely it was some second unit stuff that she shot that wasn't ever even used in the film. It's very likely it wasn't used at all. Tons of stuff doesn't get used. I mean, I think Billy Kirkus says he has like 18 hours of footage. I think something ridiculous like that. I don't know if it's that much, but I know he had like 18 reels of footage unused. So who knows? And if he ever goes through all that footage at some point, he might find this clip in question, but he hasn't transferred all of that footage. It's a very expensive process. So he hasn't watched all the footage yet. So there could be some gems in there, but it's a very expensive process. And without something to use it for, it costs a lot of that. So there's that. There's also the photos that I have possession of that I can't share. I know. Why can't you share them, Sean? Well, because they're not mine, technically. I do not own these. So I have them. I don't have the originals anymore. We high-res scanned all of them. The originals are back with the original owner, and it's up to that person if they're ever going to release this stuff or not, but I've been told I can't do anything with it. But in there were contact sheets that showed the photos Kim Gottlieb took in order on that night. And it starts with Nick posing by the house, standing in that position, and then even goofing around and kind of making poses and doing goofy things, and then walking around to the back of the house, picking up Annie, walking her around and carrying her in the front. Clearly, it was Nick. It makes zero sense that she would have gotten the costume for that scene. Also, the fact that it is a first unit shot. She's talking about second unit, which is just picking up random stuff. Like, you know what? We need a shot of a tree and the wind blowing. That's what second unit does, usually stuff like that. We need some trick-or-treaters walking across the street. Go shoot that, while I'm over here shooting Jamie and the main characters in first unit. So that's the kind of stuff, it doesn't make any sense, especially when John specifically says he shot all those at the same time. You can hear it from the man himself. Listen right here as John says in the audio commentary that he shot all of these scenes at the same time.
All the point of views from this house were shot at the same time. We just lined them up and sent them through. As I had on paper pretty much planned out how the shooting should go.
Okay, so we have that. And how did this argument all start? This argument all started by Tommy Lee Wallace's comments on our podcast, The Thing with Two Heads, where I believe it was a fan asked about what Debra had done, or maybe maybe the question was actually if John had ever played the Shape, because that was also a rumor, and John has said he never did. Tommy said he never did. Nick said John never did. That's just another one of those rumors. But then I think the subject about Debra then got brought up. I'd have to rewatch it. We'll play it here so you can hear the actual comments. And after this, I will tell you, with all of this information compiled, Nick and I talked about it earlier today, and I will tell you what he had to say about it.
Good.
All right. So Brandon Collins said, question for Tommy. For years, we've all known that Michael was played by at various points in the film by Nick Castle, Debra Hill, yourself, Jim Winburn, Will Sandon, and Thou That Shall Not Be Named. I've also heard that Carpenter himself played Michael in one or two shots. Is this true? And if so, which shots, if you can recall? Now, I personally have always thought that to be rumor, but you tell him.
Yeah, it's a silly rumor. I don't recall John ever even putting on the mask.
Yeah.
Debra put on the mask for a gag, but she was never in the movie as the Shape. Her hands played the part of young Michael Myers just before he murders his sister. Her hands reach into the kitchen drawer. She did not play the Shape.
Well, I know there was a rumor for years that the shot across the street when Tommy looks out the window and sees the silhouette, people have said that was Debra in the costume, but I know now for a fact it isn't, because I've recently come across those photos that actually show that it was definitely Nick, and I can't really get into what's in those photos, but it definitely was Nick for sure.
I was there when Debra put on the mask just for fun.
Yeah.
And believe me, it would have never happened. It looked ridiculous. Right. There is a difference.
Okay. So I spoke to Nick Castle about this, asked him directly, just hoping he could just put it to bed like that. Like that scene, is that 100% you? And he said, I'll be completely honest with you. I don't remember for sure if that shot was me or not. Just looking at the shot and thinking about it. But based on all this other stuff he saw and hearing what John said and knowing that they did shoot all those at the same time, he said, yeah, it absolutely makes sense that it was me. I definitely carried Annie around the house. So that was more than likely me standing there as the silhouette. He just said, I can't 100% just off of memory alone, 44 years ago, remember standing in that spot and doing that shot in particular. So he's being honest there. But he said, hearing what Debra said, second unit, he said, well, right there, that he thinks answers your question. He said, because that is not a second unit shot. That is absolutely a first unit shot that John did. I kind of feel like this whole thing is just one giant silly argument, but people seem really engrossed in this argument and conversation and debate. And I think all of the evidence points to one guy in an editing room making a documentary, deciding to use a certain clip while she spoke, is where this whole conspiracy, if you will, this whole rumor began, right there from one person. I'm not even sure who did it. I got to look at the credit. Let's find that person and say, hey, did you just make a judgment call, or did somebody specifically say this is the scene? He probably doesn't remember either, because that was how many years ago? 24 years ago? Wow. But yeah, that's how these rumors start, man. And it's not to take anything away from Debra. Her involvement in Halloween is so important on every level. She was a driving force behind it, absolutely, as young Michael's hands, in the opening of the film. So nobody's trying to take that away from her. But was she ever in the costume in the film, in the what we know as the Shape costume and the Shatner mask and the coveralls? I don't think so. But did she wear the clown costume? Yes, she did. She did. So that's it. Just throwing this out there, food for thought. I'm sure there's going to be people in here who go, I don't care what you say until you resurrect Debra Hill herself and she says that was not me. I think it was her. And that's cool. And you can be that guy. You can be that guy, Isn't it funny, though? Come to think, I was thinking of the comparison I made of Trekkies and Halloween fans. But then there is that connection because the Shatner mask, maybe that's why. Maybe there's a little bit of Trekism that bled into the Halloween fandom. I'll have to think about that. Hopefully one day these photos I have will be released and people will get to see them for themselves and realize, oh, yeah, for sure. Because you can even zoom in on them and really see his build better in some of these shots. I'm sure somebody's going to say, you don't have them photos, you liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. That's okay. That's good. That's, it keeps us talking about it. As long as you guys keep talking about it, Michael Myers never dies. He'll live on. He'll live on in your minds as a 5 foot tall woman, I guess. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this little semi-educational / rant. I just hope you guys enjoyed this and gave me an excuse to make a video here on a lazy Sunday. Have some water.